Hey everyone, it's Robin Cavallaro with the Robin Cavallaro Group for Remax 100. Guess what? I got a new friend with me today. So, welcome to my crazy world. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So, this is Lisa, and I know I'm going to butcher your last name.
It's
Pflugh,
Pflug. It's Pflug.
Pflugh. Okay.
It looks like a lot of things. I just tell people I don't care what you call me, just call me when you need to sell your house.
I need to remember that with Cavallaro. I feel like, how do you pronounce? All right, so Lisa Pflugh, she's out of Colorado Springs. So, she was not a military spouse, but hello, welcome to my little twist. Her husband moved so much with his job that they moved more than we did with the military. Yes. So I thought that'll be a fun little twist on things today because we've always talked about PCSing and Army, Navy, Marines. I'm like, let's go IT. And because that's a whole different world that yours truly was part of for 16 years. So yes, that's the other tie-in. Yeah. So welcome to my world. I appreciate you playing with me today. So yeah. And Lisa and I got to know each other in Napa last week, which is why I still have the raspy voice, way too much talking, way little sleep, great networking, new
Yeah.
friends, and a ton of brainstorming.
hmm Yeah.
That'll sum it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fantastic event.
Yeah. So, all right, let's back up. How many times did you and your husband move with his job?
So in the first 22 years that we were married, we moved 18 times.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I
it
mean, at
was a
that
lot.
point, you just take a suitcase and a carry-on.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, is it even worth unpacking the boxes at that point?
Yeah, yeah. There's multiple stories of we just get there and then we've got to move again. So it was an interesting lifestyle. And my kids, grew up in that. And we'll still talk, like they're all settled now, they're married and have significant others. But they're like, yeah, every 2 years I start to get the itch because it's time to move.
I understand that because when we moved to DC, it was our last transfer, and that was 2010. And we opted in 2014 to bypass any chance that him making captain so we could not move the kids again. But at the same time, like we've been here 4 years. I'm ready for a new house. I'm ready. So I went through and redecorated my entire house, painted everything. My ex is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm used to moving. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't want to move. So
Yeah.
I can't wrap my brain around basically almost every year moving. A
Yeah, it was every other. So, the tech boom in the 90s, my husband and I met in college and he's a Renaissance man is the best way I can describe him. So he had so many interests that he kept changing his major. And so he has more credits than I do and I have a bachelor's degree and he just never finished. And
Oh my
so
God.
in pursuing IT, it was tough for him to get past the checkers, the resume checkers that stop at, do you have a degree? And
Yes.
so he had to work really hard to get his foot in the door. And so what ended up happening is, he'd get a job. We would move for the job. He'd have, get a year of experience and then he'd be able to apply for a new job with the connections that he made and the experience and get a $30,000 income raise. And at that time, I was a stay-at-home mom. We were a single income family. So we had three kids and we were, we chose for me to stay home and be
Mhm.
that solid example for the kids and just be there for them. I don't regret that at all. It was the best thing that I could have done. Real estate came later, when they didn't need me anymore or not as much. So we moved all over Pennsylvania, and then into Virginia. We were in Fairfax for 2 years. That was actually the next to the last move. We were our kids. My son was a junior, my daughter was a sophomore, and then my youngest was a freshman.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in Virginia, and
So
I
what year
didn't.
was this?
That was 2014.
Okay, we were in Maryland then. We were
Yeah.
neighbors almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost. I mean, my husband worked in Maryland for a time when we were in DC, worked at Fort Belvoir. So he
Mhm.
was a DoD contractor at one point. Um, and so, I grew up in the country. I do not like the cities very much. And so when we were in Virginia and Fairfax, when we're 5 miles away from something and it takes 45 minutes to get there, one day my husband was home for some reason and it hit me that, oh my God, if my kid graduates and he's going to go in state to George Mason because they had a great program of what he was looking for.
Yep.
And I was like, if we don't get out of here now, we're never leaving. It's going to be 10 years and we're going to be stuck here. And so we talked about it. And when our kids came home from school, we had a poster board written up with all the areas, the tech areas that we could move to. So we could move back to Pennsylvania, we could move to Austin, we could move to Arizona, Colorado. And the connection with Colorado was when my husband and I were first married. This is way back, totally different story, but we worked with juvenile delinquents. We were counselor parents
That's
for
amazing.
15 adjudicated youth that lived in our home. And because of the timing of it, we got a month off and we drove across country because I was going to go to grad school at CU Boulder and just loved Colorado. And it became kind of like a family legend. Like someday we'll get there. And we would always talk about it with the kids, not on purpose, just because we loved it so much. And so Colorado made the list of one of the places we could go. And we let our kids decide. We had moved them around enough.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
said, this will be the last move. You get to pick where we go. And so they picked Colorado. And we knew one person when we moved here. And that was in 2015. 2 years later, I got licensed. And so I've been licensed since 2017, and I'm a top producer in my market.
That is unbelievable because it is so hard to move into a new area
Yeah.
with no sphere and
Yeah.
build a business, especially in real estate when it's all based on trust and other people go on, especially on Facebook, it's like, who do you know? And they list all these people, they list all their neighbors, cousins, aunts, uncles, who may or may not have ever thought about getting a real estate license. And most of them have never had firsthand experience with them, but they met them in the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's brutal. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So, and I understand what you're talking about with Northern Virginia because when we were moving back in 2010, now keep in mind, I grew up in Richmond. I am a Virginia girl, deep in my soul. So when we moved back, I am house hunting and I could get this teeny tiny little thing about this big that backed up to the Fairfax County Parkway that looked like the Brady Bunch had literally just moved out. It
Yeah.
was complete with orange shag, the
Yeah.
brown wooden countertops, the sparkly glitter wallpaper. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could hear the echo of Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And I'm like, no. So that's how we discovered Maryland was we could get a house like this on an acre with a pool that
Yeah.
was in move-in condition. Still need to be
Yeah.
gutted. That's a story for a whole other day. Um, or renovated for the same price. And the
Yeah.
schools were just as good. And
Mhm.
I didn't have my neighbor where I could pass
Yeah.
all through the windows. So
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Virginia, we used to joke we had a dog at the time and we would walk the dog because we were living in a townhouse
Yeah.
temporarily because we knew it wasn't going to be long term there. And we used to have a game that we would play to see how many people we could make say hello to us because they'll just look right through you. And so we're like, I'm going to win. I'm going to make you say hello to me. And so that was just a game that we played in our family.
And to me, okay, being all my family's from the South, first one I think to marry a Yankee, and that's what it is. Um, and it's like you drive down the street and you wave to people.
Yeah.
But again, Northern Virginia and Connecticut was the same way. They would rather rip their eyeballs out than have to make eye contact with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Maryland's not that way, people. Come on, we're friendly.
Pennsylvania wasn't like that either. And
Yeah.
Colorado's not like that. Colorado's different. It's not like that, but we have a lot of transplants. So they kind of just don't know each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But y'all have don't y'all have like a lot of breweries and
Oh yeah. Yep.
um like what is it, like the craft beers and stuff?
Yeah, a lot of breweries, a lot of dispensaries for pot. So we've got both. But yeah, there's a lot of, because in Colorado we have 300 days of sunshine. That's the biggest difference that
Are you
I
serious?
noticed. Oh my God. Pennsylvania, I loved it growing up, but it gets gray in November and it stays gray till March. And in Colorado, we have sun 300 days a year. And so I love it. So you can be out in the winter and it's 40 degrees, but the sun's out and we're at 6,000 feet, almost 7,000 feet. So it's warm enough that you can wear a long sleeve shirt and a vest. But there's a lot of outdoor, there are some wineries, but mostly craft beer. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I'm not a beer fan, but
Me either.
it's not my
But they do
thing.
ciders and I don't mind those.
But I'm open to trying them. There was one
Mhm.
time where I refused to ever try red wine. Look where that got me now.
Right.
So, yes. Um, so how did you get into real estate? Was that just when you got there, you're like, I want my own thing?
No, that started 15 years before. So because we moved so much, I
Uh-huh.
had realtors for years trying to get me into real estate. And I was always like, oh my God, no, I would never do real estate. I just didn't. And right after we moved here, my son was going into college. He graduated from high school here after 1 year. And so he was going into college, and my husband was like, hey, you got to do something full time because we got to pay for this kid's school. And I was like, okay. So I got licensed in insurance
Oh.
and wanted to pluck my eyeballs out. It was the worst for me. I was sitting behind a desk 40 hours a week, hated every minute of it. And so I had met a guy who owned just a small brokerage. It was just him. And we actually had in common a personal trainer that was training both of us. And she was killed in a car accident. And so we started talking, and he's like, I know you're miserable in your job. Why don't you come and be my assistant and I'll pay you what you're making there? And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Stop being
Yeah.
miserable, try something different. And it was vivid. About a month in, I was like, I can do what he's doing and I think I can do it better. And I I took a loan from him to
Uh-huh.
to pay for my classes, because in Colorado we have 168 hours of study that you have to do to get licensed. We become brokers, we're associate brokers when we get licensed. And so I studied 6 to 8 hours a day, working part-time, and it took me 4 months to study and pass the tests. And then I was with his company for about 4 months and quickly realized that he was all about team in talk, but not in action. And I'm a very loyal person, so it takes a lot to push me to make a move. And he pushed me, and I moved. And I called my friend at Remax, and I said, I'll be there on Monday. And that was 4th of July weekend. And so I said, I'll be there on Monday. So July 7th of 2017 is when I joined Remax, and haven't looked back since.
That's so cool. And okay, so you and I are a lot alike because I'm loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
I don't like walking away from someone until you make it to the point you've burned every possible bridge with me.
Yeah. Yep.
At that point, I'm like, bless and release. It's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And I had another change recently in January of this year. I went from one Remax to another. Again,
Ah.
same situation, got pushed out, wanted to stay, but it just wasn't going to work. And you know, I found myself, I'm a very open, welcoming person. If someone needs help with a contract, I'm going to help them, even if I'm not
Exactly.
getting paid for it. That's just who I am. And I found myself going into my office and closing the door.
Oh,
And that was my signal that made me realize I'm not being authentic to who I am. And that's not
mm-mm.
healthy for me. And so I made the move to Remax Advantage in January of this year and loving
Oh,
it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I changed Remaxes almost 3 years ago. And I won't get into we'll just
Right.
say it became time. We'll leave
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I
Um,
think it speaks multitudes that you and I could have gone anywhere when we
yes.
left, and we
Mhm.
chose to stay in the brand. And there's a
Oh,
reason for it.
there was a time back in 2021, I was talking with EXP about going there. I was all excited. And then went to R4 in Orlando, and Nick Bailey and I got into a very unpleasant conversation. And he told me at one point to remove my head out of a certain orifice that it really
Mm.
shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you do things my way, he's like, because before then I saw no value in Remax, none.
Yeah.
I saw the value in the brokerage I was with, but
Yeah.
nothing nationwide. And
Mhm.
so he's like, put the balloon on your logo. Still
Yeah.
there, Nick. And to truly connect with 5 people in that elite roundtable room.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I connected with a few more than that, and we became friends. And we started brainstorming, and they started to helping me, and we built relationships. And it wasn't just, hey, here, blink me. And for those that don't know, it's a digital app with your business card. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But you weren't just walking around going, here's my card, here's my card. Oh, and
Yeah.
here's my swag. Take this, and never have a conversation. We had conversations where we got to know each other. And when you walked away, you're like, I got a new friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and then we become friends on Facebook to now I know everything about their families. And and now it's like it would be impossible for me to leave the brand.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
You know, there's a meme out there that has all the different brands and, what you don't get or whatever you do. And they
yeah.
say that Remax you don't get business because you're in Remax. And that is a total lie. I get business because I'm in Remax every year. One year it was like 30% of my business was referrals from other agents.
And mine's consistently about 20%, which huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. And but again, it says a lot about how much we get to know each other and we trust each other. And these friendships I would trust my daughter with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I may even give them to her, you know, give her to them. I don't know.
Depends on the day, right?
All right. All right, Morgan. Oh, and Brent's available too.
Mhm.
He's got one more tuition payment. Good luck there, guys. But you and I are so much alike because even though I was working part-time when my kids were babies, I work from home. So I got to do everything with my kids. I was there
Yeah.
for, you know, every school picnic, school field trip, going outside and playing with them while, before, when they weren't in school and picking them up every day from school and having the what was your favorite thing part of the day conversation
Yeah.
to where is and nothing against moms who work. I got
No,
utmost
no.
respect for them because there's no way I could do that.
I have said it numerous times. If I was in real estate when my kids were little, they wouldn't have gotten fed because I love real estate so much.
Yeah,
And I just am very, like, I'm all into something. So if
yeah,
I'm working on a contract, nothing else matters.
yeah.
And so it's just how I'm wired. And so I am grateful that my children were able to be fed when they were younger. And now they
Well,
can feed themselves.
it's sort of like I said, if I ever homeschooled, which again, those moms, y'all are amazing. You just
I did
go
that for
ahead,
6 years
set up
also.
this saint statue. My kids would still be in preschool. I mean, who are we kidding? I mean, their biggest math lesson they ever got from me is we would go to Kohl's and it would be like, okay, here's a discount that got 30% off coupon. So they learned how to figure out what the cost of something was. And then I said, okay, when we get home, just tell dad that mom saved over $100 today. We don't tell him how much mom spent.
Yeah.
We're only going
Yeah.
to talk about what mom saved. And, but again, it was our running joke but I'd always take that and incorporate it. And, but I did get into real estate when they were 6 and 8. And in the beginning, people were like, hey, can I see this house at 3 o'clock? I'm like, you can, but the kids will be with me, or I can meet you at 6 when their dad is home.
Yeah.
And one lady, God bless her, I still love her today. And I think she's figured out she was my first buyer. She didn't know it at the time. But it's just like, bring the kids, bring the kids. And my daughter walking up, Miss Mars, you don't want this house. This closet's not big enough. I'm like, all right, well, she ain't wrong. But that was brutal because I had to hold myself back
Yeah.
and not build the business I wanted to build because I didn't want to take time away from my kids.
Yeah, I really don't think, one of the things that you hear a lot about, people talk about is balance, work-life
Mhm.
balance. I really don't think there is such a thing. I
Mm-mm.
think there are seasons when you focus on one thing more than another. And
Yeah.
those seasons come and go. I'm going through a season right now where I'm not as focused on my business. I'm focused on my health. I've got a health issue right now.
Yeah.
And so, that's my focus. I'm still helping my clients, but I'm not all in to build and, do that kind of stuff like I was before.
Yes. And you're going to be 100% fine very soon. And
Yes.
then I see life as like a seesaw,
Yeah.
some days, life is getting a little, family and all that's getting a little bit more attention. Other times business is getting a little bit
Yeah.
more attention. But it's rare that you've got that one
Yeah.
little kid that can stand there in the middle and keep that little sucker balanced.
Right. Right. And
We're
it's an
not circus
unrealistic, I think,
performers.
I think it's an unrealistic expectation for women in particular,
Mhm.
because we're supposed to be able to balance it all and you can't. Something has to go and
Y-
something has to give.
Yeah.
So you just have to be intentional about where your focus is.
Yes. And you have to forgive yourself if the dishes sit in the sink one
That's
extra
right.
hour.
Yeah.
Or, oh
Yeah.
my God, you're having cereal for dinner tonight because
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I can't agree with you more. As women, we beat ourselves up and feel so guilty because we're nurturers. It's like you want to make sure your clients
Yeah.
are well taken care of. You want
Yeah.
to make sure your spouse, well, not me anymore because that's his girlfriend's problem, is taken care of. You want to make sure your kids are taken care of, even when they're adults.
Yeah.
And the little monster over here, my cat, I want to make sure he's taken care of.
Yeah.
And then you want to take care of your friends, and then you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then you have to pause and go, okay, it's Robin time.
Yeah.
Phone goes on do not disturb, and we're gonna just sit here and watch cheesy TV, enjoy a glass of wine, and not talk to another human being.
And it's harder to do that when you have to choose to do that
Yes.
rather than when you're forced. And like,
Yeah.
you could, but it's now that I'm forced to take 6 to 8 weeks
Mhm.
off of work coming up,
Yeah.
it's killing me. But if
Yeah.
I had chosen to do, take off those times, maybe it would have been better, so, and it's all about grace. We
Yeah.
all are learning and improving every day, no matter where we are and what we're doing. And so you're going to be better tomorrow than you were today. And so don't hold yourself to tomorrow's standard when you're at today.
And if you do stumble, life is like cha-cha. Sometimes you have to
Yes.
take that one step back to
Yep.
keep moving forward, because if you don't take the step back, you don't get yourself healthy, you don't get yourself mentally healthy too,
Yeah.
and you don't give yourself grace to
Yeah.
say, I kind of messed up this week.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, you just keep pushing forward, and then you hit that proverbial brick wall
Right.
going a gazillion miles an hour.
And where you're no good to anybody, even
No,
yourself. Yeah.
no. And I did that last November. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
You
No,
really
no.
don't. Um, because we're not Stretch Armstrong.
Right.
We we can't be pulled in that many directions, then bounce back and go, okay, next.
Yeah.
Um, so I I have no doubt that in 8 weeks you'll be like, I'm back, I'm
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be doing amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Little PSA, since we have the platform, if you're over 40, get a colonoscopy because that will prevent, and finding out early is the best thing. So,
Just like with everything, the mammograms, the
yep.
colonoscopy,
Yeah.
guys, it's those hidden little things it's God's way every now and then of going, we're gonna pause, we're gonna reset.
Yep.
We're gonna just kind of force you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had several friends that either dealt with um cervical issues, colon issues, breast issues.
Yeah.
We're in the sun a lot, skin stuff.
Yeah.
That's why when you see me out in the sun, I've got level 100 or one.
Yeah, I do. I'm a melanoma survivor, so I do the same thing. I've got a lot of sunscreen, a lot of long sleeve shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but prevention is key for
I'm
all
the
these
person that even on the boat, I'm trying to find the only shade on the boat
things.
because I
Yeah.
don't want to be in the direct sun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my mom passed away from breast cancer,
Oh,
and
sorry.
well, long story, but we'll keep it condensed.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2009. But it's like cancer doesn't run through my family; it waltzes. It's like,
Mm,
oh, and who's
yeah.
next up for this one? So
Right.
it's like
Right.
because of that, I'm super careful, super
Yeah.
cautious,
Yeah.
and yeah. Um, and my dad always thought that drinking red wine was good for the heart. It did help him get over the first heart attack, and he lived almost another 30 years. So maybe he was right. Maybe he was wrong. We don't know. So
If so, you're inoculated for a while.
I am. I know, like we're gonna be well preserved, especially up
Yeah.
in Napa. Jesus Christ. Ah. It's like the inner Catholic is coming out. Um, so back to your kids. What was the one thing or two things or three things you did with them that helped them transition and stay so sane and not
I was
just
I'm just looking on my wall. I used to have it on my wall and it's not here anymore. When my kids were probably the older one was probably middle school, we created a family charter. And this
oh,
was, we kind of said, hey, we're a unit. We're going to stick together. We're going to be healthy. We're going to communicate. And it's us against the world kind of a thing. And so, like, our charter had things like when there's a gap in what I experience and what I expected, I'm going to choose to fill the gap with the benefit of the doubt rather than suspicion. That was great for
I
siblings, you
love
know.
that.
So that was one of them. I'm trying to think what the other ones were. Um, Speaking kindly, I think was one of them. I wish I had it in front of me. I think it's in my husband's office now. But we had that charter, and it is all grease stained, and because it's stuck on my
Yeah.
refrigerator next to my stove, wherever in whatever house we were at. So it's all like brown and gross looking. But we still talk about that, and we our family is very big on communicating. We talk about things um sometimes ad nauseum, but my kids are all great communicators. So we talked about, I remember specifically when we left Virginia, right? My son's going to be he just
Yeah.
finished his junior year. My daughter was a sophomore, just finished her sophomore year. And then my youngest was actually going to be a freshman when we got here. And we just talked about how sometimes life throws us curveballs. We felt put in Virginia because it wasn't our choice to go there. My husband had to go after a failed business attempt to take over a family business that didn't work. My husband had been out of IT for 2 years.
Yeah.
The platform that he was working on was now defunct. So he had to change what he was doing, learn something new, and we had moved to Virginia. And so we felt put there. And so, we talked with the kids about really just, yes, this is not fair. And no, it doesn't feel good. And yes, you've only made these friends for 2 years and now you're going to have to leave. But that's what life is like. Life throws us things that we don't want, that we aren't ready
Yeah.
for. And we can either curl up in a ball and be the victim, or we can look for the positive and overcome and make it better than what we were. And that was, I'd say, if there's anything over our family's lifestyle or lifetime, that's what we talked about, making the good from the bad. So now, like when I'm dealing with a cancer diagnosis, I'm looking at, hey, how much weight am I going to lose from the surgery? I'm really excited about that.
Hey, absolutely.
You have to find the positive in things because life does throw you curveballs.
And I like to find the humor in it,
Yeah.
which
Me too.
sometimes is not always appropriate, but
Right. Right.
it
But
really isn't.
I think resiliency is the best measure of success. If you can teach your children to be resilient and you yourself can be resilient, you will be successful at whatever you do.
Well, and we're our kids' best example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
because your kids are watching what you go through.
Yeah.
And, for lack of better terms, because there's no such thing as just mom,
Right.
but they knew you as just mom for so many years. And all of a sudden you go out and you become this badass realtor.
Yeah.
And now they see, okay, well, mom had the rug ripped out from underneath her.
Yeah.
So we're going to rally around her. We're going to watch her become her badass self again
Yeah.
and conquer this. And now not only recover and be healthier, but then you get to be an advocate and your conversation with someone else may end up saving their life.
Yeah, and that's already happened. When I announced on Facebook that I had cancer, I had a woman that I did not know. She
Mhm.
was a realtor in another state. We were friends somehow, some
Yeah.
connection. And she reached out to me because she wanted to comment on just how proud she was that I was able to share that because she had terminal cancer and hadn't shared it with her family yet
Oh my God.
and didn't want to because she didn't. And I was able to just kind of say, please don't take that from your children. They they don't they want to remember, they're going to want, if you pass away and they found out you knew and you held that from them, you stole their last moments, their last memories, their all of the things that they would want, that they would intentionally be paying attention to. You took that from them. And so, I haven't followed up with her. I hope that she did tell them, because I think that it's important to do that. But I was really, really grateful that me being courageous enough to put it out publicly that I'm struggling with this helped me feed into someone else's life.
I have so much respect and admiration for you. And it's, because it is tough for us to put out there that you're facing a challenge.
Yeah.
We're not,
Especially in business,
yes,
because you're wondering how it's going to impact your business. Am I going to lose business because I'm sharing this with people?
exactly. Is it
Yeah.
going to be held against you?
Right.
And some people it will, some people it won't.
Right.
But I think overall, your strength, your courage, your openness is going to end up being a blessing in so many ways that people can't wrap their head around.
That's what I hope and pray for. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
So you just have to go through a little speed bump. But
That's right.
you got all of us here.
Yeah.
We're your
Yeah. And
cheerleader.
I feel that support 100%.
And it's like we're the ones who will sit there and send you goofy little pictures and do
Yeah.
silly stuff. And is and I will say this, when my mom was going through it, one of the things that made it worse for her was when people come up to her and go, how are you? How are you doing? Is
It's
it getting
tough.
better?
Yeah.
And I have a very dear friend who's stage 4 right now of pancreatic cancer. And when he told me a little over a year ago, I looked at him and I said, here's the deal. I will never ask you how you're doing. I will never ask you anything about your prognosis. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. But if you want someone to laugh with, cry with, sit quietly and watch a movie, if you want to talk, I am all ears,
Yeah.
but I'm never going to ask you how you're doing.
Yeah,
And
it's funny. It's funny. I've been experiencing that because I don't have any symptoms. It was found on a
yeah,
colonoscopy. So I'm good. And so when I
yep,
tell people that, they're not good. And so I'm like, I really am fine. It's okay. And I'm like, I kind of have this like, do I really have cancer? Should I feel worse? Because I don't feel worse. So it's been an interesting journey to see it is a tough topic, and to see people's reactions and just not knowing, so that when I did post it finally and told people, I said, here's what I need. I need you to keep me busy. I need you to take me to lunch. I need you to ask me to go to coffee with you. I need you to ask me to go for a hike. I need you to keep me busy. And my tribe has done that. They've
Oh, yeah.
been there. Yeah.
And I love that you put it out there going, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Because you are going through a major
Yeah.
thing. At the same time, it could turn out to be snip, snip, done, sprinkle in a little magical fairy dust
There
and
we go.
poof, gone.
It's an expedited weight loss plan is what it is.
You know, don't want the C word, but I would take an
My husband said, that's a really expensive weight loss plan.
Yeah, I understand the little shot thing is a little bit
Yeah.
quicker, a little easier.
Right. Yeah.
But that one scares me too, because I see pictures of people where it's like they lose all the fat in their face. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to look like a skeleton. So
Right.
I think I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Just put down the wine glass, put down the pizza, and
Hard
actually
work.
pick up a barbell.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
Not exactly my idea of fun, but
Right.
hear that or start shopping for bigger clothes, which I don't like to shop for big stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not your typical girl. Yeah. Well, I am blown away by your story and how many times y'all moved and how your kids ended up doing so amazingly well and so stable because that is hard. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really hard.
It could have gone a very different way. I feel for people who are struggling, with their kids with addiction or just,
Yeah.
making bad choices. And I'm just very, very blessed. Our kids are successful in their careers. My two daughters are married. My son is engaged. So they're starting their families. I have a grandson, and so I'm really blessed.
Now, do they live locally?
My daughters live in Colorado Springs, and my son lives right now in Lakewood, which is just a suburb of Denver, so not too far away.
That's awesome because this
Yeah.
way, it's like you never know when people move that often. They're like, oh, let's just pick a new city and go try it out.
Yep. We're kind of waiting so that the girls already own homes, so I'm hoping that that's going to keep them stable for a while. And my son and his fiance are actually, I just had him out looking at houses last week before the conference.
So, all right. So that brings up a different question. Did you and your husband ever buy a house when you were moving
We
all
did.
the time?
Yeah. We had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We owned 5 homes before we got to Colorado.
So that must have made it hard buying the house and all of a sudden you're moving.
Yeah, one house we sold in 2011 when the market was just bottomed out, and we had to bring $35,000 to the table to move.
Okay. All right. So that's our Connecticut house. Because when we moved to Maryland, it was our 4th house in 11 years. The first 2 we did really well on. Connecticut, no, we lost $40,000 on that house, but it could have been worse.
Yep.
Thankfully, we had an awesome realtor, and but every other house in the area was losing on average of 20 to 25%, and we only lost 10%.
Yeah, I mean that time, and that was before I was licensed, so I wasn't in it like I am now, and I did. It's so funny though. I did learn some things through my experience with realtors, not being a licensee. So we had one realtor sold. We were doing for sale by owner. Stupid. I don't know why we thought we could do it. So, and he knocked on the door and we went with him. He sold that house, helped us buy. And then when we went to sell that house and buy the next house, he dumped us on one of his new buyer agents. And we felt dumped. And I remembered that. And that was back in 2006 to 2005. So, for 20 years, I remembered that. And I was like, I will never make somebody feel like that. And when I had my team, I made sure we did not have that experience with any of our clients because it was, and he came back later and asked us, like, why didn't you use me? I said, because you dumped us. We weren't important enough to you. And so you threw us off with this guy who was a sleaze bag and it was awful. And so, but it was interesting that I, had learned that lesson well before I needed it.
And that's so important because I do have a lady on my team that I call my buyer's agent. She's more of a partner. She's way more than just that. And
Mhm.
I had a Zillow buyer. When someone I met through Zillow that I talked to for like 3 years. And all of a sudden he decided he was ready to start looking at houses. And it was the only time he was available was a time I absolutely was not available.
Yeah.
And Chrissy was, they met, they formed an amazing connection. So she ended up helping him buy his
Yeah.
house. And I felt guilty over it because I'm like, I've been talking to you for 3 years.
Yeah, no,
But
it's different.
it
It's
was a
different.
different situation.
Yeah.
Because and again, this is important because when I send a referral to a team leader, it
Yeah.
better be that team leader working that referral,
Yep.
or I
Yeah.
better interview the agent that they're going to give it to, or you're not going to get it. It's
That's
not going
absolutely,
to be.
yep, I do that when so I no longer have my team. I dissolved my team
Yeah.
in July. But when I did have the team, I handled all of the referrals that
Yeah.
I got because my team members didn't get referrals from out of area agents. I did because
Yeah.
I built the relationship with the agent. And so, yeah, they always ask, and I always say, absolutely, I am handling it. The only reason I wouldn't is if I were sick and, I couldn't show, but I
Right.
handle all of those. And I do think that's really important because the trust that you're conveying, I'm borrowing your trust with your client. And so they have to feel that. And that was where it was dropped when we got dropped. We could tell it was just like, you go help them. And
Like,
and and it didn't sit well. And he asked me and I told him later. And I think he's realized since then that's not a great way to do it.
it
But it was a
really
good lesson
isn't
for me.
because we're not puppies at a shelter that you just, buyers and
Yeah.
sellers are not puppies. They go, oh, you're cute. You'll be fine with this person. And
Yeah.
this is helping someone buy the biggest asset that they will probably own in their life.
Yeah.
This is the place they're going to put their family. They're going to go to sleep each night in here. This where they're going to feel safe. And when they put that trust in you, you can't just go, it was really nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Sally's going to take care of you today.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
because
know,
they want us. I always tell my buyers, especially, I said, you looking at the house, you want, there's just like a house, there's no perfect spouse. So you want it to be 85% of your needs. That's a good house if we can get 85%. And I said, you're looking, will my furniture fit? Will my kids like this? Will this work? Will this work? I said, I'm looking at the other things. How's it going to resale? What are the structural things like? What are the things that you're not even aware of that I'm looking at to make sure that I protect your gaps? And that's what they want. They need somebody to come in and fill the gap of the things that they don't know because they don't do this every year. We do.
yeah, and like I had one client one time, their biggest thing they need a house, and I still kind of crack up over this. She likes the big fat Christmas trees, not the little skinny one, the huge fat one.
Yeah.
And they fell in love with this house, and I'm sitting there looking at it, looking at it. I said, "Where are you gonna put your tree?" And she paused, and she'd already placed all the furniture in her head. This
Yeah.
thing was visually staged to a T. And she kept looking. And after about 5 minutes, she goes, my tree won't fit. It won't fit anywhere in this house. And she goes, we can't buy this one. And the house they bought, they had the biggest, fattest tree that you could possibly find. And they were over the top ecstatic because she got her tree.
Yeah.
And granted, the quality of the house was not as high as the one we were looking at first, but they were willing to sacrifice granite countertops and hardwood floors
Yeah.
to have the Christmas tree they were like.
Yeah. Because that's what's important to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And, it's like for me, when I was house hunting, because when I moved last year, I downsized. I looked at 55 houses.
Oh,
I'm the buyer
whew.
that a lot of agents would have fired. But
Yeah,
I knew what I
yeah.
want. I knew what I wanted. I wanted my
Yeah,
privacy. I wanted the garage or a space to put it. I wanted room for my kids to be here when they were with me, but not feel
yeah,
so big when they weren't. And I went the convenience to the location I wanted to be in.
yeah,
And it's like I would look at something a little bit further out and go, no, I don't want to be here. I
yeah,
don't. I will be patient and I will wait.
yeah.
And my house hit the market and I walked in and spent 5 minutes looking at it, turned around, walked right out. The seller was working from home. She texted her agent. She goes, well, she's not making an offer. And I called her for my car because I knew the agent. I go, hey, I'm sending you an offer. It's only valid until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Just keep in mind, this was beginning 23. We were
Yeah.
still going crazy. I'm like, only good until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. If it's not signed by then, I pull it. And I keep looking. I'm like, it's a house. There'll be something
Yeah.
else that pops up. I was under contract at 9:02 the next morning.
Nice.
I was sitting in a settlement with a client. I'm like, yes. They're like, what is it? I'm like, I just bought a house. But it's like, I'm like, all right, listen to your own advice.
That's
Quiet down.
right.
Don't remove the emotion. I mean, for me, that was easy. I'm like, space works, location works. I can fix anything else in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, that was a little scary. So, but like I
Yeah.
said, I am beyond shocked and amazed with your story. Because when you told me that, I was like, holy moly, you
When
moved. We did.
that's it. Yeah. When I say, oh, we moved 18 times, they're like, oh, you military? I'm like, no, but I do work with a lot of military now,
Yeah.
but I'm not military.
But you actually understand what they're going
I
through.
do. Yeah.
Is to be told, hey, we understand you're enjoying life in this spot, but you're going here instead.
Yeah. Yep.
And the stress of selling a house where you are, the stress of getting your kids on board, and the stress of moving to an area you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Um, when we went to Connecticut, that was just the state we drove through to get to Rhode Island to see my in-laws.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever stopped in there before. Except, oh, we did for Sea Swirl. Okay. They got amazing soft serve ice cream. Let's just own it. Eh, and Maryland was again a drive-through state. I don't
Yeah.
think we went to the Baltimore Aquarium once.
Yeah. Love the Baltimore Aquarium.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And so for us to suddenly move to an area we knew nothing about
Yeah.
is terrifying.
Or it's an adventure. It's all how you spin it. You got it. It's how you look at it, right? It's
Yeah.
what filter are you looking at things through?
Well, to my kids, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is gonna be a fun adventure. I don't like change. I don't
Oh yeah.
like I don't like these adventures. I mean, I graduated from high school with the same people I went to kindergarten with.
Me too. And I was one of
Okay.
the few to ever leave the county.
Ah, I,
So my best friend got me through algebra 1, algebra 2, trig, and calculus because I cannot do math to save my life. She is now a math teacher in our high school that we graduated from. So they just stay there, and I didn't.
and math was my favorite subject, but my friend Ricky Wilson, when we had to dissect frogs, I would sit there like this, barely doing anything, and he's all in there. And when the teacher walked by, he's like, "Oh yeah, Robin just did that." I'm like, "Thank you." I'm like, "You are an amazing human being." Because I'm not touching that. And the
Yeah.
same thing we had to do the pig. I'm like, come here, Ricky. We're partnering on this. We're still friends to this day, and I think I'm
That's
pretty sure it's
awesome.
because we bonded over that pig. Um, so, but it was so different. It's like, for me, these are people that I knew all 18 years.
Yeah.
My kids didn't have friends more than 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. It's different. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different.
and I'll say this, I think our kids have a better chance at being successful in this environment now than we did because we had long distance phone calls where, okay, you
Yeah,
can only talk for 2 minutes
that's right.
or you had to write letters.
Yeah,
Um, and one of my friends, when we had just finished sixth grade and Sonia's dad got a job in Tennessee. So she moved out there. We wrote letters all the time and you got
yeah,
super excited when you got the mail from Sonia so you could see what was going on in Tennessee.
yeah.
And we're
And
still friends on
now
Facebook.
And now we use that in business. I don't, at least I do. I write handwritten notes all the time to my clients because I will go to and I've been getting some notes lately because of the diagnosis, but I go through the mail and I'm like, trash, trash. Ooh, a handwritten letter. And I lay it down and I open it up and then more trash, trash, junk mail, And so I look for things that are handwritten, and it means a lot when someone sends me something, and that same thing for our
Yeah.
clients.
So, and I will own this. There for a while, I was having my assistant write them for me where I would send her what to write. And I had a pleasant conversation with someone at Elite that basically said that while they understand that it's still my words, still my sentiment, it wasn't my effort.
Right. And that really is what makes the difference.
So I've got a stack of cards that I'm working on right now that I'll be sending out 65 of them handwritten,
Awesome.
and they will not be done by anyone else but me. And
Yeah.
I'll
You can
be
have her do the envelope. Do it that way. I
well,
will write.
she lives in Delaware,
Oh,
so
then no, forget
yeah,
that.
it's
Just
100% me,
get a
guys.
return address stamp. It makes it
Yeah,
easier to just do that. But yeah, I've got
yeah.
my pack of cards right here that I'm working on.
Yeah, and it's yeah, but again, what I found is when I would type it out, the message out to her, it sounded good as you're typing it, but as you're writing it, it doesn't sound as good. It doesn't sound as
Mm.
genuine. So now I'm
Well,
rewriting them
and
and
I think there's something, there's science behind thinking and
Mhm,
writing, and
mhm.
there's some science behind how good it is for you. But I also think it's when you're sitting down and you're writing it, the intention is different than if you're typing it. I don't know why, and I don't know if there's science behind it, but it feels different.
It completely agree. And I wish I didn't because it was so easy to say, here's the
I
message.
know.
And she would write them and it was awesome and then put them in the mail. But what I'm finding is, and so you're going to get little scratch outs. It's not going to be
Yep.
perfect
Yep.
because I've got ADD, slightly dyslexic. So yes, I own it.
Yep.
And that was the part I was struggling with. But I also know that when I was doing this before and every card came directly from me, every card was handwritten, I felt like I had a better connection.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm going back to that.
Yeah.
And
Good for you.
she is going to help me with Christmas cards. I'm sorry. We got 500
I
of
don't
them.
do Christmas
And,
cards. I
yeah.
don't. I can't. Too much.
Uh,
I didn't do Christmas cards when, like, for my family. So it's just, I'm just not doing it.
well, she's doing the ones to clients. I'm doing the ones to agents. We're kind of
Nice.
splitting the stack.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the only, otherwise they'll be coming out next July.
Yeah, you got
Uh,
to start in October to get ready by Christmas. So yeah, there's
yeah,
some planning involved for sure.
and I have learned to embrace the holidays because my kids are only home at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm,
And where I used to run Toys for Tots in Calvary, I did that for 6 years. It becomes a full-time job on top of full-time real estate. So
right.
you become worthless to your family.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm like, no, we're not doing this anymore. So at this point in time, I'm stepping back from all this volunteer stuff. I don't know how people do it. I applaud you, not doing it. And I'm just focusing on, there's one organization I'll give a little bit to time wise, but most of right now through the holidays, it's gonna be focusing on clients, family, and friends. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I don't want to get to January 1st and go, oh, thank God it's over.
Right. Right.
And that's how I was the whole time I was doing Toys for Tots.
Well, and it's seasonal. That's the problem or the challenge.
Yeah,
If it were something that would happen in the middle of, May, it wouldn't be as big of a deal because it's not interrupting your life.
right.
I find different, like I serve on boards. That's how I choose to give back to the community. I find that it's not because it's not a concentration of time, it's more spread out. It's a board
Yeah.
meeting once a month, and something like that. So those are the things that I like to do because I can fit that into my schedule a little easier.
And I think and again, going back to the thing we talked about before, as women, we have to be very selective with what we allow into our calendar, into
Mhm.
our heads, and make sure we're protecting ourselves and our family time and
Yeah.
still having enough to give to our clients so that nobody feels like they're getting the leftovers.
And ladies, no is a complete sentence.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can just say no. And you
Uh-huh.
don't have to be vicious or mean about it. You can just say no. And that's
I,
good.
one of my favorite sentences, and people have kind of stopped asking right now, is I am so humbled and honored that you ask. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I can do the best job for you with everything else I have going on right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're like, okay. And they're like, oh, they were expecting me to go, sure. And I go, no,
Right. Right.
no,
Yeah.
because I did that before. I did it.
Well, and people in general have this, they
Yeah.
add a new thing, they add it, but without ever taking anything away.
Yeah.
So whenever you add something new, you need to really think about what can I take away to make place for that. And
Yeah.
that's unnatural to people, but it is so necessary for your sanity.
Because
And
otherwise, it's like you got 5 pounds of pasta on a 1 pound plate, and you're like doing like this all the time.
yes, yeah,
It, it is something is always falling through the cracks, always
yeah,
falling
right,
off the plate.
right,
And then you got a big sloppy mess that you got to clean up.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, ladies, don't do that. Say no.
Right. And it's okay to say no.
I feel like Nancy Reagan. Just say no.
Yes. Right. Oh my God. Haven't thought of that in years.
There's no telling what comes through this head.
Yeah.
So, it's a little scary at times. Yeah. Well, I am so glad you did this with me, and I really enjoy getting to know you better. And I love spending time with you in Napa. That was a big surprise where we kind of bumped into each other and just started talking.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm like, oh, she's my friend. I'm like, she's awesome too. So, and I am going to be saying lots of prayers for you, and I want to
Thanks, Robin.
keep us up to date
I will.
about the progress and absolute sincere. If there's anything at all we can do to help, let me know.
Thank you. Referrals in January. That would be helpful.
Yeah. You'll be on my list if I got somebody.
Yeah, yeah. But prayers
Um,
and good thoughts are definitely appreciated.
and same thing I told my friend, if you need someone to talk to, we can Zoom, watch a movie together. We can do that.
Awesome.
Um, have the virtual popcorn, whatever. You need a laugh, you need a cry, virtual hug. Awesome. I got you covered.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Robin.
But I will not ever call you and go, how are you doing?
Okay,
Not gonna do
good.
it. So, but you got thoughts and prayers, and I will be speaking with you very soon because I want to hear
Okay,
how things going.
sounds great.
All right. I adore you. All
All right, take care. Thank
right. Bye.
you.